Welcome to MitoTalk Deep Dive, your sonic guide through molecular symphony that keeps life ticking. Today's episode is called Complex 5, the Grand Turbine. Why? Because at the end of mitochondrial electron transport chain, after all the proton gradients are built, after oxygen has become water, one final miracle remains, making ATP, the cell's energy currency. And that task falls on complex 5, better known as ATP synthase, the rotary engine of life. Joining me again is the brilliant Basudha Banerjee, mitochondrial biologist with great interest in longevity and regenerative medicine. Basudha, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Dr. Khurana. I am thrilled to talk about this magnificent rotary nanomachine, one of the nature's most elegant inventions.
Let's start at the core. What exactly is complex 5?
Complex 5, which is also known as the ATP synthase, it is the fifth and the final major complex in the entire oxidative phosphorylation system. It uses the proton motive force, which is built by complex 1, 3, and 4, to spin a rotor, which then synthesizes ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. Complex 5 is the ultimate energy converter, a physical turbine embedded in the inner mitochondrial membrane that spins at thousands of revolutions per minute. And at every turn, it gives birth to the molecule of life, that is ATP.
Well, can you break down its structure? I've read that it has multiple motors.
Absolutely, that's right. So complex 5 has two primary domains, the F naught domain and the F1 domain. F naught domain is embedded in the inner membrane, and this is the proton channel. So as the proton flows down the gradient, they turn a rotor ring of the C subunits. And the second F1 domain is located in the mitochondrial matrix. And this is exactly where the ATP synthesis occurs. It consists of alternating alpha and beta subunits with a central gamma shaft that rotates due to the F naught activity. And as the gamma shaft spins, it induces conformational change in the beta subunits, cycling through loose, tight, and open conformations, ultimately catalyzing the ATP formation. So it's basically like a turbine, a ratchet, and a factory all in one.
Well, why is complex 5 considered economic backbone of the cell?
Because without ATP, almost nothing works. Ion pumps, neurotransmission, muscle contraction, DNA replication, proton synthesis, everything requires ATP. And complex 5 is responsible for producing up to 90% of a cell's ATP, depending on the tissue. So, for neurons, cardiac cells, and skeletal muscles, they are all high demand systems, and a healthy complex 5 is non negotiable.
Mhm. So, this is very important to understand. So, I can guess, but I'd still ask you what happens when complex 5 malfunctions?
Well, a lot happens. So you get ATP deficiency, leading to cell fatigue or rather even dysfunction. Proton leaks might happen that can disrupt the membrane potential. Then there could be an accumulation of ROS due to the ETC backup. And in severe cases, mitochondrial diseases like neuropathy, ataxia, and retinitis pigmentosa, Leigh syndrome, or even mitochondrial encephalomyopathies. So these are especially devastating in tissues that cannot tolerate energy failure, like the brain, the eyes, and even the heart.
Well, are there specific genes we monitor in ATP synthase related disorders?
Yes, both mitochondrial DNA and nuclear DNA, they encode ATP synthase subunits. So mutations in a variety of genes, naming a few like MT-ATP6 or MT-ATP8 from the mitochondrial DNA, or ATP5F1 or even ATP5E and other nuclear genes can lead to a lot of assembly defects, proton transport issues, or even the dysfunction of the rotor. Interestingly, the emerging AI tools now help to predict which variants are pathogenic and how they disrupt the proton translocation or even the rotational torque.
That's interesting. Now I come to some of my most favorite things in biology, which is treatment, because that's something that can keep me up late at night or get me early in the morning is eventually finding treatments. So, how do we think of treating complex 5 related dysfunction?
So, as far as therapeutic targets are concerned, we have three broad strategies. First is to stabilize the assembly that can be done using chaperone enhancers or even cofactors. Secondly, we have to reduce the ATP demand, which can be done via metabolic bypass or even reducing the inflammation. And finally, we have to improve the proton gradient with probably upstream complex 1, 3, or 4 support. And currently, researchers are also exploring synthetic proton channels to assist the F naught, the allosteric activators of the beta subunits, and even gene therapy to fix defective rotor proteins. Most importantly, many antioxidants and NAD plus boosters indirectly help by reducing the oxidative burden on complex 5.
That's interesting. I mean, how antioxidants and NAD plus boosters can really help reduce the oxidative burden. Um, but let's sort of see, otherwise, we'll get too much into the details. Something I love about this thing because I kind of studied it in the context of Parkinson's. But let's ask a bigger question, sort of bird's eye view. How is AI changing the game in ATP synthase research?
It is doing so in a lot of incredible ways. So, molecular dynamic simulations, which are helping to visualize the rotor movement. Then we have AI models that can predict how mutations are altering the torque mechanics. Then we also have a lot of drug discovery platforms that are using machine learning to scan for small molecules that can bind to the rotor or even the stator domains and boost its efficiency further. Some startups are even bioengineering synthetic ATP synthases as organelle therapeutics, essentially building nanomachines to supplement the defective mitochondria.
Well, that's interesting. Can maintaining complex 5 function contribute to healthy aging?
Absolutely, without a doubt. So, studies in centenarians and long lived mammals have shown that higher ATP synthase activity and better mitochondrial coupling. This means that there are fewer proton leaks and the energy is used more efficiently. And lifestyle interventions that support the complex 5 can be intermittent fasting, exercise, NAD plus supplementation, and even cold exposure. So, cold exposure is sort of linked with promoting mitochondrial biogenesis. So, by preserving this final turbine, we are somehow preserving the energy flow, the resilience, and perhaps even the lifespan.
And that was really illuminating, Vasu. One could argue that this turbine doesn't just fuels life; it defines it.
Absolutely. So, complex 5 is basically the bridge between the potential and action, and it is what turns possibility into motion, to breath and being.
Well, thank you for joining us on this journey through Grand Turbine of Life. If you've enjoyed today's episode, subscribe and revisit our past exploration of complexes 1 through 4. We would look forward to some very interesting dynamics, bioenergetic reprogramming in disease and recovery. Until then, stay curious and may your energy always grow. Thank you.
Thank you very much.